Captain Marcus Chen stood at the viewing window of the diplomatic station. Below him, the planet Velcora glowed with strange purple light. He had traveled 3 months through space to reach this place. His mission was simple, but dangerous. Make peace with the Valkyrie people. Marcus was not a soldier. He was a xeno-diplomat. Other humans used weapons and threats to deal with alien species. Marcus used something different. He used understanding. He listened. He learned. He built bridges between worlds through friendship and respect. The Valkyrie were different from any species humanity had met before. They had a terrible power. Their touch could drain life energy from other beings. One moment of skin contact could weaken someone for days. A longer touch could kill. This power made them feared across the galaxy. Most species refused to go near them. For thousands of years, the Valkyrie lived alone. They built no alliances. They made no friends. Their children grew up never knowing a gentle touch. Their elderly died without ever holding hands with someone they loved. It was a civilization built on isolation and fear. Marcus learned all of this during his journey. He read every report. He studied their language. He watched videos of their careful, distant interactions. What he saw made him sad. The Valkyrie were not monsters. They were prisoners of their own biology. Now he was here to change that, or at least to try. A chime sounded. His assistant, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, entered the room. She looked worried. "Captain, they are ready for you. The princess has arrived." Marcus straightened his uniform. "How does she seem?" "Cold," Yuki said. "Very cold. She will not let anyone within 3 meters of her. She wears full protective clothing. Even her face is covered by a thin veil." Marcus nodded. He expected this. "Let us go meet her, then." The conference room was large and empty. At the far end, a single figure stood alone. Princess Shivara was tall and slender. Her body was wrapped in layers of silk and metal mesh. The fabric shimmered with technology designed to insulate her deadly touch. Only her eyes were clearly visible. They were silver, like moonlight on water. They were also completely empty of warmth. Marcus walked forward. His team stayed near the door. Protocol said he should stop 5 meters away. Protocol said he should bow from a distance. Protocol said many things. Marcus ignored protocol. He walked to within 2 meters of the princess. Then he smiled and extended his hand. "Princess Shivara, I am Captain Marcus Chen. It is an honor to meet you." The effect was immediate and terrible. Shivara jerked backward as if he had struck her. Energy crackled around her body. Purple light danced across her covered skin. A nearby Valkyrie attendant stumbled and fell, clutching his chest. The princess had lost control for just a moment, and her power had lashed out. "Do not ever do that again," Shivara said. Her voice was sharp as broken glass. "Touch me again, and I will drain you, human. I will pull the life from your body until you are nothing but empty skin. Do you understand?" Marcus slowly lowered his hand. He kept his voice calm and gentle. "I apologize, Princess. I meant no disrespect. Among humans, we shake hands as a sign of peace and goodwill. I did not mean to frighten you. Frighten me." Shivara laughed. It was not a happy sound. "I am not frightened, Captain. I am dangerous. There is a difference. You should learn it quickly if you wish to survive these negotiations." She turned away from him. "We will meet tomorrow to discuss the treaty. Stay away from me. Stay away from all my people. We do not need your human gestures of peace. We need distance. We need barriers. We need you to remember what we are." That she swept from the room. Her attendants hurried after her. They gave Marcus dark looks as they passed. Yuki came to his side. "That went badly." Marcus shook his head. "No, that went exactly as expected." "You nearly got yourself killed, sir." "Perhaps," Marcus said. "But did you see her eyes?" "They looked angry. They looked afraid," Marcus corrected. "She is terrified, Yuki. Terrified of herself. Terrified of hurting others. She has spent her entire life being told she is dangerous, being told she must never let anyone close. Can you imagine what that does to a person? Yuki was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What are you planning, Captain?" Marcus looked at the door where the princess had disappeared. "I am going to show her that isolation is not the only answer. I am going to prove that connection is possible, even for someone like her." "That sounds dangerous, sir," probably Marcus agreed. "But nothing worth doing is ever completely safe." At night, Marcus could not sleep. He sat in his quarters reading everything he could find about Velkari culture. The more he learned, the sadder he became. Velkari children were taken from their mothers at birth. They were raised by machines and hologram teachers. They learned to control their power through meditation and emotional suppression. They were taught that love was dangerous, that friendship was impossible, that they must always be alone. Princess Shivara had lived this way for 30 years. 30 years without a hug, without holding hands, without anyone ever touching her with kindness. No wonder she was cold. No wonder she pushed everyone away. But Marcus had seen something in her eyes during that brief moment. Beyond the anger and the warning, he had seen loneliness. He had seen a person who desperately wanted to connect, but did not know how. Humans were known across the galaxy for many things. They were stubborn. They were adaptable. They refused to accept that anything was impossible. If the Valkyrie needed distance, then humanity would find a way to bridge that distance. If the princess needed connection, then Marcus would find a way to reach her, even if it killed him. He closed his files and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Tomorrow, he would start breaking through the walls that surrounded Princess Shivara. Not with force, not with tricks, but with patience, understanding, and the simple human belief that everyone deserves to be seen and valued. The princess had warned him not to touch her again. But Marcus knew that touch meant more than physical contact. It meant reaching someone's heart. It meant showing them they were not alone. He would reach her. Somehow, he would reach her. The stars outside his window seemed to glow a little brighter with that promise. Touch me again and I'll drain you. Human Part 2. The negotiations went poorly from the start. Princess Shivara sat at the far end of a long table. Marcus sat at the opposite end. Between them was 10 meters of polished metal. It felt like a canyon. The princess spoke in cold, formal tones. She outlined terms and conditions. She discussed trade routes and resource sharing. She never once looked directly at Marcus. She treated the entire meeting like a business transaction between machines, not people. Marcus tried to warm the atmosphere. He told a story about his first time meeting an alien species. He asked about Valkyrie art and music. He suggested they take a break and walk through the station gardens together. Shivara rejected every attempt. "We are here for business, Captain Chen, not friendship. Please focus on the treaty." After 3 days of this, Marcus felt frustrated. He was not making any progress. The princess kept all her walls firmly in place, but he also noticed something. Sometimes when he told a story, her eyes would flicker with interest. When he laughed, she would tilt her head slightly, as if the sound confused her. She was listening, even if she pretended not to care. On the 4th day, everything changed. Marcus and Shivara were in a small conference room reviewing documents. The princess sat in her corner, as far from him as possible. Her protective garments covered every inch of skin. Only her silver eyes were visible through her veil. Suddenly, the station shook. A deep boom echoed through the walls. Red emergency lights began flashing. An automated voice announced, "Containment breach in engineering section. Fire detected. All personnel evacuate affected areas." Marcus stood up. "We need to leave now." He moved toward the door. It would not open. He tried the manual override. Nothing. The control panel showed damage to the door mechanism. They were trapped. Shivara rose from her seat. Marcus could see tension in her posture. "Can you fix it?" "Maybe," Marcus said. He knelt by the control panel and removed the cover. Inside was a mess of wires and circuits. "If I can bypass the damaged sections and reroute power to the manual release, Smoke began seeping under the door. The automated voice spoke again. Life support compromised in Section 7. Oxygen levels decreasing. Marcus worked faster. His fingers moved through the wires, tracing connections. But then he found the problem. 2 critical wires needed to be connected simultaneously while a third was held in exactly the right position. He did not have enough hands, Princess, he said calmly. I need your help. Shivara stepped back. No, I cannot. If I touch you, I know the risk, Marcus interrupted. But we will both die if we stay here. The fire is spreading. We have maybe 10 minutes of breathable air left. Find another way. There is no other way. Marcus looked at her directly. I trust you, Princess. I believe you can control your power long enough to help me. You do not understand, Shivara said. Her voice cracked slightly. I have never touched anyone without hurting them. Never. Not once in my entire life. Then maybe it is time to try something different. Marcus held up the wires. I need you to hold this connection steady while I complete the bypass. Just for 30 seconds. That is all. The smoke was getting thicker. Shivara stood frozen. Marcus could see her internal struggle. Fear warred with necessity. She looked at the sealed door, then at the smoke, then at Marcus. If I hurt you, then you hurt me, Marcus said simply. But if we do nothing, we both die. I would rather take the chance. Slowly, Shivara moved closer. Her hands were shaking inside her protective gloves. The garments are damaged from the explosion, she said quietly. My left sleeve is torn. If we touch... I understand. Marcus positioned himself at the control panel. Come stand here. I will guide your hands to the right position. Shivara knelt beside him. This was the closest they had ever been. Marcus could see details he had missed before. The way her silver eyes reflected the emergency lights, the delicate patterns etched into her veil. The fear and loneliness written in every line of her posture. He asked. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Marcus gently guided her hands to the wires. Through the torn section of her sleeve, her bare forearm brushed against his hand. The effect was immediate. A cold sensation spread from the point of contact. Not painful exactly, but wrong, like someone pulling the warmth from his body. Marcus felt his strength draining away, but he did not pull back. He did not cry out. He kept his hand steady and completed the bypass. Hold it just a bit longer, he said. His voice was weaker now. Shivara was breathing hard. Marcus could feel her power pulling at him, but he also felt something else. She was fighting it. Struggling to control the drain, she was trying not to hurt him. Almost there, Marcus whispered. He connected the final wire. The door mechanism hummed. Now push that button. Shivara pressed the manual release with her free hand. The door slid open. Rescue teams were already in the corridor. They rushed forward with medical equipment and oxygen masks. Marcus slumped against the wall. He felt exhausted, like he had run a marathon, but he was alive. They both were. Shivara pulled away quickly. She scrambled backwards, staring at her hands in horror. I hurt you. I drained your energy. Marcus looked up at her. His face was pale, and he was breathing hard. But he was smiling. Actually smiling. You saved us, he said. You controlled your power long enough to help. You did not kill me, Princess. You saved my life. Shivara stared at him. No one had ever smiled at her after touching her. No one had ever looked at her with anything but fear or pity after experiencing her power. But this human was smiling. Like she had done something wonderful instead of something terrible. Medical teams helped Marcus to his feet. They checked his vital signs and insisted he go to the medical bay. As they led him away, he looked back at Shivara. Thank you, he said. I knew I could trust you. After they were gone, Shivara stood alone in the corridor. She looked down at her hands. The hands that had drained countless people. The hands that everyone feared. The hands that this strange human had willingly touched. Without hesitation, without fear, something warm and unfamiliar stirred in her chest. She did not have a name for it yet, but it felt like the first crack in a wall that had surrounded her heart for 30 years. In the medical bay, the doctors examined Marcus thoroughly. He had lost significant energy, but would recover completely with rest. Lieutenant Yuki stood by his bed, looking worried. That was incredibly reckless, Captain. Marcus closed his eyes. He was tired, but satisfied. Perhaps. But now she knows something important. What is that, sir? That connection is possible. Even for her. Even with her power? Marcus smiled slightly. That is worth a little lost energy. Yuki shook her head but said nothing. Her captain was the most stubborn human she had ever met. But maybe, just maybe, his stubbornness would actually work this time. In her quarters, Princess Shivara sat in darkness. She replayed the incident over and over in her mind. The way Marcus had looked at her with trust instead of fear. The way he had smiled afterward. The way he had said thank you, no one had ever thanked her for touching them before. She pulled off her damaged garments and looked at her bare hands. For the first time in her life, she wondered, what if her power was not just a curse? What if with the right person, with the right purpose, it could be controlled? What if she was not doomed to eternal isolation? What if this human was right? Touch me again, and I'll drain you, human. Part 3. Marcus recovered quickly. Within 2 days, he was back at work. But something had changed between him and the princess. She no longer sat at the far end of the table. She now sat only 5 meters away. It was a small change, but meaningful. More importantly, she started asking questions. Captain Chen, she said during their next meeting. In the medical reports, it mentions you have a mother. She visited you when you were recovering. This is normal for humans. Marcus nodded. Yes, when humans are sick or hurt, family and friends often visit. It helps us heal faster. We feel less alone. Your mother touched you, Shivara continued. Her voice was carefully neutral. She held your hand while you rested. Why? Because she loves me, Marcus said simply. Physical touch is how humans show care and affection. A hug from someone you love can make almost anything feel better. Shivara was quiet for a long moment. I do not understand this concept. Love, care. Among my people, these emotions are considered dangerous. They make us lose control of our power. Perhaps, Marcus said gently, or perhaps your people have never learned how to experience these emotions safely. There is a difference between suppressing feelings and learning to manage them. Over the following weeks, their meetings became less about treaties and more about understanding. Shivara began asking about human families. How children were raised, how friendships formed, how people showed they cared about each other. Marcus answered every question honestly. He told her about his childhood, about playing with other children, about scraped knees that his mother kissed better, about holding hands with friends while walking to school, about his grandmother's hugs that smelled like vanilla and made him feel safe. Shivara listened to every story with intense focus. Sometimes Marcus saw something like hunger in her eyes, a longing for things she had never experienced and never thought possible. One day, Marcus made a bold proposal. He requested a private meeting with the Velkari Council. Shivara attended as well, curious about what he would say. Honored members of the council, Marcus began. I have a proposal for a new kind of diplomatic exchange. Not of goods or information, but of understanding. The Velkari council members watched him with cold silver eyes. Humans have a remarkable trait, Marcus continued. We adapt. Our bodies and minds can adjust to almost anything given time and training. I believe that with proper preparation, humans could learn to withstand brief contact with Velkari without serious harm. The council erupted in sharp, angry sounds. One elder stood. This is foolishness. Your kind would die from our touch. Perhaps, Marcus said calmly, but I am willing to try. I volunteer myself for this experiment. Let me spend time with Princess Shivara. Let us work together to see if connection between our species is possible. Why would you risk your life for this? Another council member demanded. Marcus looked at Shivara. Because isolation should not be the only answer. Because every being deserves the chance to connect with others. Because I believe the princess is strong enough to control her power if given the right support and practice. The council argued for hours. Finally, they agreed to a limited trial. Marcus could work with Shivara under strict medical supervision. At the first sign of serious harm, the experiment would end. Shivara said nothing during the entire meeting, but when Marcus looked at her, he saw something new in her eyes. Hope. Small and fragile, but definitely there. Their training sessions began the next day. They met in a medical room with full monitoring equipment. Doctors and technicians watched from behind protective barriers. We start very small, Marcus explained. You will touch my hand for just 1 second. Focus on keeping your power controlled. I will handle the rest. I could hurt you badly, Shivara said. She was not wearing her full protective garments today. Just thin gloves. I trust you, Marcus said. He extended his hand. Shivara removed one glove slowly. Her hand was slender and pale with strange silver markings across the skin. She reached out and touched his fingertip. For exactly 1 second, then pulled away. Marcus felt the familiar cold drain, but it was brief and manageable. He smiled. See? You did it. You are weaker now, Shivara said, watching the medical monitors. Your energy dropped by 15%, and it will recover by tomorrow, Marcus replied. Again, this time 2 seconds. They practiced every day, 1 touch at a time. Shivara gradually learned to regulate her power, to pull it back instead of letting it flow freely, to stay calm and focused even while making contact. But more than that, Marcus taught her what touch meant. He explained that a hand on someone's shoulder could mean support, that holding hands could mean companionship, that a gentle touch on the arm could say, I am here and you are not alone, Shivara. Absorbed these lessons like someone dying of thirst who finally found water. She had spent her entire life starved for connection. Now, slowly, carefully, she was learning how to reach out. One day, after a successful training session, Shivara asked a question. Why do you do this, Marcus? Why risk yourself for me? We are not even the same species. It was the first time she had used his first name instead of his title. Marcus considered his answer carefully. Because I see you, princess. Not your power. Not your danger. I see someone who is lonely and afraid and trying very hard to protect everyone else from herself. That takes tremendous strength. You deserve to be seen for that strength. Shivara looked away. Her voice was very quiet. I have been alone for so long. I did not think anyone could see past what I am. You are not just your power, Marcus said gently. You are also your curiosity, your intelligence, your careful control, and your hidden kindness. Those parts of you matter too. For a moment, Shivara was completely still. Then she did something unexpected. She removed both her gloves and held out her hands. I want to try something longer. A full minute of contact. Can you endure that? Marcus knew this was dangerous. A full minute could drain significant life energy. But he also understood what she was really asking. She was asking if he truly trusted her. If his words were genuine or just diplomatic pleasantries. He took her hands in his. I trust you. The drain began immediately. Cold spread through his body. His strength flowed out like water through open fingers. But Marcus held on. He kept his eyes on Shivara's face, watching her concentrate. Watching her fight to control the power that had controlled her entire life. The medical alarms began beeping. Shivara's eyes went wide with panic. Marcus, I should stop. Keep going, Marcus said. His voice was weaker, but steady. You can do this. Just a bit longer. Shivara closed her eyes. Her whole body trembled with effort. Then, slowly, Marcus felt the drain lessen. Not stop completely, but reduce. She was pulling back her power while maintaining contact. When the minute ended, Marcus was pale and breathing hard, but he was smiling. Shivara was staring at their joined hands in amazement. I did it, she whispered. I controlled it. I actually controlled it. You did, Marcus confirmed. You are so much stronger than you realize, princess. Shivara looked up at him. For the first time since they met, she smiled. It was small and uncertain, like someone remembering how to use muscles they had forgotten existed. But it was real. "Call me Shivara," she said quietly. "Friends do not use titles with each other, correct?" Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. "That is correct." "Friends use first names? Then we are friends?" she asked. There was vulnerability in the question, as if she feared he might say no. "Yes," Marcus said simply. "We are friends." Shivara's smile grew a little wider. Then she laughed. It was a surprised, delighted sound. And as she laughed, something amazing happened. Her energy flared around her body, but instead of the dangerous purple lightning of anger and fear, it glowed warm and golden. Like sunlight, the medical staff gasped. One doctor checked his readings 3 times, not believing what he saw. Shivara C's energy, when connected to positive emotion, was not destructive. It was beautiful. Marcus squeezed her hands gently before releasing them. "That," he said softly, "is what connection looks like." Shivara stared at the fading golden glow around her skin. Something fundamental had shifted inside her. For 30 years, she had believed she was a monster. Danger. Something to be feared and isolated. But this human saw something different. And in seeing her differently, he had helped her see herself in a new light. Maybe she was not cursed after all. Maybe she was just someone who had never been taught how to belong. Touch me again, and I'll drain you. Human part. For news of the experiment spread quickly through the galaxy. Some praised it as a breakthrough in interspecies relations. Others condemned it as dangerous and foolish. The response within Velkhari society was particularly intense. Conservative factions saw Marcus as a threat. They believed he was teaching their princess to be careless with her deadly gift. They argued that thousands of years of careful isolation should not be abandoned because of one reckless human. Progressive Velkhari had a different view. They saw hope in what Marcus and Shivara had accomplished. For the first time, one of their people had maintained safe, controlled contact with another being. Young Velkhari especially began questioning the old ways. Why should they live in isolation if connection was possible? The human response was equally divided. Some saw Marcus as a hero, bridging the gap between species. Others saw him as foolish, risking his life for aliens who could never truly be trusted. Several human officials called for his recall, claiming he had exceeded his diplomatic authority. Through it all, Marcus and Shivara continued their work. Their training sessions became longer and more complex. Shivara learned to maintain contact while experiencing different emotions. She practiced control while happy, sad, frustrated, and excited. Each time her ability improved, but she also learned something else. She learned what friendship felt like. Marcus taught her about shared jokes and comfortable silences, about supporting each other through difficult moments, about the simple joy of spending time with someone who understood you. For Shivara, these lessons were revolutionary. She had never had a friend before, never known what it meant to look forward to seeing someone, never experienced the warmth of genuine companionship. Marcus gave her all of this. In return, except that she'd believe in herself. Then her mother arrived. Empress Kiravan was ancient by any standard. She had ruled the Velkhari for over 500 years. She was powerful, cold, and absolutely terrifying. When her ship docked at the station, everyone felt the change in atmosphere. Even Marcus, who feared very little, felt a chill of apprehension. The Empress demanded a private audience with her daughter. Marcus was not invited. "You have been careless," Empress Kiravan said. She stood in the center of Shivara's quarters, radiating disapproval. "You risk everything our people have built for the approval of one human." "I am not seeking approval, Mother," Shivara replied. She stood straighter than Marcus had ever seen her. "I am learning that isolation is not the only path. Isolation protects us, protects others from us. It is the only responsible choice." Shivara said quietly. "It is the only safe choice. There is a difference." The Empress moved closer to her daughter. "You do not understand the cost of what you are doing. You think this human friendship will last? You think you can control your power through positive feeling? But what happens when things are not positive? What happens when you experience loss, Grief, rage. I will handle it. Like I handled it. The Empress's voice cracked slightly. I once had someone I cared about. 500 years ago. I thought I could control my power through discipline and focus. I was wrong. Shivara stared at her mother. You never told me this? Because it is too painful to speak of, the Empress said. His name was Terran. He was a Valkyrie scientist who believed as you do now. He thought connection was possible. We worked together. We became close. And when he died in an accident, my grief killed 17 people who were near me. The room was silent. I lost control for less than 5 seconds, the Empress continued. That is all it took. 5 seconds of unguarded emotion, and 17 innocent people died. Do you understand now why we choose isolation? It is not cruelty. It is necessity. Shivara felt her certainty waver. She had never known this story. Never understood the depth of her mother's fear. Your human friend will leave, the Empress said more gently. His mission will end. He will return to his people. And when you are alone again, when you feel that loss, what will you do? Will you be able to control your power then? Or will you kill everyone around you? The questions haunted Shivara for days. She continued her sessions with Marcus, but was distracted, uncertain. Marcus noticed the change but did not push. He simply remained present, steady, reliable. Finally, the Empress made her decision. She called a formal assembly. All the Valkyrie Council members attended. Marcus and his team were also summoned. I have watched this experiment long enough, the Empress announced. It is time to end it. My daughter will return to Valkyra with me. The human diplomat will conclude his mission and leave. Marcus stood. Your Majesty, with respect, I am not finished, the Empress cut him off. Her silver eyes were cold as winter stars. However, before we depart, I wish to see proof of my daughter's supposed control. She claims she has learned discipline through her connection with you. I wish to see it demonstrated. Mother, what are you asking? Shivara said. I want you to drain him, the Empress said bluntly. Completely. Show me that you can access your full power and still maintain control. Show me this connection has made you stronger, not weaker. Or show him what you truly are. The room erupted in protests. Lieutenant Yuki jumped to her feet. You cannot ask that. It could kill him. Which is precisely the point, the Empress replied. If she cannot control her power under pressure, better to learn it now in a controlled setting than later when more lives are at stake. Marcus held up a hand for silence. He looked at Shivara. She was trembling, her eyes wide with fear. She shook her head frantically. I will not, Shivara said. I will not hurt him like that. Mother, please, do not ask this of me. Then you admit you cannot control your power, the Empress said. You admit this entire experiment has been a dangerous fantasy. Come home, daughter. Resume your proper isolation before someone dies because of your foolishness. Marcus stepped forward. He walked directly to Shivara and stood before her. It is okay, he said quietly. I trust you. Marcus, no, Shivara whispered. You do not understand. If I use my full power, if I drain you completely, you will not lose control, Marcus said with absolute certainty. Because you are not your mother. You are not anyone else. You are Shivara, and you are strong enough to choose connection over fear. He extended his hand. Shivara looked at his hand, then at his face, then at her mother, who watched with cold expectation. The Empress believed Shivara would fail, believed she would either refuse and prove herself weak, or accept and lose control. Proving connection was impossible, but Marcus believed something different. He believed in her. Shivara took a shaky breath. Then she removed her gloves with trembling fingers. She reached out and took Marcus's hand in both of hers. The drain began immediately. But this time, Shivara did not hold back. She let her power flow fully. Energy poured out of Marcus's in waves. The medical alarms screamed. His knees buckled. Yuki lunged forward, but other officials held her back. Shivara felt his life force flowing into her. Felt how easy it would be to take everything. felt the terrible, seductive pull of her own power. Every instinct screamed at her to release him, to pull back, to protect him from herself, but she did not let go. Instead, she looked into Marcus's eyes. He was growing pale, his breathing labored. But he was not afraid. Even now, even as she drained his life away, he looked at her with trust and belief. "You are stronger than your fear," Marcus whispered. "Prove it." Something inside Shivara crystallized. She had spent 30 years believing she was dangerous, believing she needed to be isolated, believing she could never have what others took for granted. But Marcus had shown her a different truth. She was not a monster. She was not a curse. She was a person with a gift that required discipline and support. Just like any other ability, it could be controlled. It could be channeled. It could be used safely with the right training and the right mindset. She would not let fear win. Not anymore. Shivara closed her eyes and pulled. Not at Marcus's life force, but at her own power. She drew it back inside herself, fighting against years of conditioning and instinct. The drain did not stop completely, but it slowed, then slowed more. She maintained contact while forcing her power to heal. Like a wild animal being trained, it was the hardest thing she had ever done. Harder than any meditation, harder than any control exercise. She was fighting against her own nature, against ancient instincts, against the very biology that defined her species. But she was not alone. Marcus was there, holding steady, believing in her. That made all the difference. Finally. After what felt like hours, but was only 2 minutes, Shivara pulled back her power completely. They stood there, hands clasped, with no drain between them. Impossible, and yet happening. The medical staff stared in shock. The Velkari Council members whispered frantically. Lieutenant Yuki had tears streaming down her face, and Empress Kiravan stood frozen. Watching her daughter do what she had believed was impossible, Marcus swayed on his feet. He was pale and weak, barely able to stand. But he was smiling. "I told you," he said softly. "I knew you could do it." Shivara released his hands and caught him as he collapsed. She held him carefully, mindful of her power even in this moment. "You are insane, Marcus Chen. Completely insane." "Probably," he agreed weakly. "But I am right." The Empress approached slowly. She looked at her daughter holding the human, looked at the impossible thing that had just occurred. Her cold expression cracked, showing something underneath that might have been wonder, or grief, or hope. "How?" she whispered. Shivara looked up at her mother. "He taught me that connection gives me something to hold on to, something to focus on besides fear. When I am alone, I have only my power. But when I am with someone I care about, I have a reason to control it." The Empress was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Perhaps I have been wrong. Perhaps we have all been wrong for a very long time." She turned to the assembled council. "This human has demonstrated something we believed impossible. We will not dismiss this achievement. We will study it, learn from it. Perhaps there is a path forward for our people after all." Marcus, barely conscious in Shivara's arms, managed one more smile before exhaustion claimed him. He had reached her. Despite every warning, every obstacle, every fear, he had reached her, and in doing so, he had changed the course of an entire civilization. Touch me again, and I'll drain you. Human Part 5. Marcus spent 3 days in the medical bay recovering from the demonstration. His life energy had been drained to dangerous levels. Doctors worked around the clock to stabilize him. But even in his weakened state, he seemed content. He had proven his point. Shivara visited him every day. At first, she sat in a chair across the room, maintaining careful distance. But on the second day, Marcus weakly gestured for her to come closer. "I am afraid," she admitted quietly. "What if I lose control while you are weak? What if I hurt you worse?" "You will not," Marcus said. His voice was still rough, but certain. "You have already proven you can control your power even under extreme pressure. Sitting beside my bed while I recover will be easy by comparison." Hesitantly, Shivara moved her chair closer. Then, after a moment of gathering courage, she reached out and took his hand. She kept her power completely contained. Marcus smiled and squeezed her hand weakly. "See?" he said. "Easy." They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just connected. For Shivara, it was a revelation. This simple act of holding someone's hand while they recovered, offering comfort through presence and touch, was something she had never experienced, something she had never thought she could have. "Thank you," she said finally. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing something in me that no one else did. For being willing to risk everything to help me see it too." Marcus looked at her with warm brown eyes. "You do not need to thank me for that. Friends help each other see their own strength. That is what friends do." The word friends still felt new and precious to Shivara, but increasingly, she wondered if there might be an even better word for what they were becoming. She did not know the name for it yet. Human languages had many words for different types of caring. Friendship was one, but there were others, deeper ones. She would need to learn about those words. While Marcus recovered, the Valkyrie Council met in emergency session. Empress Kiravan presided over heated debates about the future of their people. Conservative members argued for maintaining traditional isolation, but others, especially younger Valkyrie, pushed for change. "We have hidden from the galaxy for thousands of years," one young council member argued. "We have treated our own biology as a curse instead of a gift. Perhaps it is time to learn what this human has shown us. That control comes from connection, not from isolation." It is easy to say that after watching one demonstration, an elder responded. But what about the millions of Valkyrie who have never learned this control? What about the accidents that will inevitably happen? Are you willing to accept those deaths? The Empress listened to both sides. Finally she spoke. "Change will not happen overnight. We cannot suddenly tell our people to abandon thousands of years of careful practice. But we can begin teaching a new path alongside the old one. We can create training programs. We can allow those who wish to try connection the opportunity to do so safely." She paused, then added quietly, "We can stop teaching our children that they are monsters. That change alone might save countless lives." The council agreed to a trial program. Shivara would remain at the station as the first ambassador of this new approach. She would continue working with Marcus and other humans to develop safe contact protocols. Other young Valkyrie who wished to learn would be allowed to join her. It was a small start, but it was a start. When Marcus was finally released from medical care, he found Shivara waiting for him outside. She was not wearing her heavy protective garments anymore, just simple clothing and thin gloves that could be easily removed. "Walk with me?" she asked. They walked through the station gardens together. It was the same place Marcus had suggested visiting weeks ago, when Shivara had coldly refused. Now she walked beside him comfortably, maintaining only a respectful distance rather than the meters of space she once required. "My mother is returning to Velkara," Shivara said, "but I am staying here. I have been appointed as a permanent ambassador." "That is wonderful news," Marcus said. "Is it?" Shivara stopped walking and turned to face him. "Your mission here is complete, Marcus. The treaty is signed. The diplomatic relationship is established. You will be reassigned soon, will you not?" Marcus had been trying not to think about that. "Yes, probably within a few weeks." Shivara looked down at her hands. "I see. But," Marcus continued, "I have already submitted a request to remain at this station as a permanent liaison to the Valkyrie people. Someone needs to help coordinate the new training programs. Someone who understands both human and Valkyrie perspectives." Shivara's head snapped up. "You would stay? Even though your mission is over? If they approve my request, yes." Marcus smiled. "I am not ready to leave yet. There is still much work to do. And I made a promise to a friend that I would help her learn about connection. I intend to keep that promise." Something bright and warm bloomed in Shivara's chest. "You would stay for me?" "I would stay for the mission," Marcus corrected gently. "But yes, you are a significant part of why I want to stay. You are my friend, Shivara. Friends do not abandon each other just because the paperwork says the job is done." Shivara removed her gloves slowly. She reached out and took both of Marcus's hands in hers. This time, There was no medical equipment, no watching doctors, no one timing the contact. Just the two of them, choosing to connect. "I need to tell you something," Shivara said. Her silver eyes were bright with emotion. "In Valkyrie culture, we do not have many words for relationships. We have family, which we are taken from as children. We have colleagues, whom we work with at a distance. But we do not have a word for what you and I have become." "What do you think we have become?" Marcus asked softly. "Something more than friends," Shivara said. "Something I do not have the language to describe yet. You make me feel things I did not know I could feel. Safe, valued, understood, hopeful. When I am with you, I'm not afraid of my power. I am not afraid of myself. You have given me something I never thought I could have. You have given me belonging." Marcus squeezed her hands gently. "In human language, there are many words for different kinds of caring. Love is the biggest word. It covers family love, friendship love, romantic love, but the feeling underneath all of them is the same. It means you care deeply about someone's happiness and well-being. It means their presence makes your life better. It means you choose to keep reaching out to them, even when it is difficult." "Then I think," Shivara said carefully, "that I might love you, Marcus Chen, in whatever form that love takes. Is that acceptable? Can a Valkyrie and a human share such a thing?" Marcus felt warmth spread through his entire body. "Yes," he said simply, "that is absolutely acceptable. Because I love you too, Shivara. As a friend, certainly, but also as something more that we can figure out together if you want to." It was not the small, uncertain smile of weeks ago. It was wide and genuine and full of joy. And as she smiled, her energy flared around her body. Not purple with fear or anger, but golden and warm, like sunshine breaking through clouds. Marcus pulled her into a hug. It was careful and gentle, both of them mindful of her power. But it was real. Shivara stiffened at first, not knowing what to do. Then slowly, carefully, she wrapped her arms around him in return. This was what belonging felt like. This warmth. This safety. This choice to be close to someone, even though it required trust and vulnerability and risk. "Thank you," she whispered against his shoulder. "Thank you for not being afraid of me. Thank you for seeing me. Always," Marcus promised. "I will always see you." They stood like that for a long time, two beings from different worlds choosing connection over isolation. Around them, the station continued its work. Ships came and went. Diplomats negotiated treaties. The galaxy turned on its axis. But in the garden, two people had created something new. A bridge between species. A proof that understanding and compassion could overcome any barrier. A demonstration that even those who seemed most isolated could learn to belong. If someone was willing to reach out first, weeks later, the first group of young Valkyrie arrived at the station to begin training. They were nervous and uncertain, still wrapped in protective garments. But they came because Shivara had shown them it was possible. Marcus and Shivara met them together. Shivara stood without her heavy clothing, wearing simple garments and holding Marcus's hand openly. The young Valkyrie stared in amazement. "This is possible for all of us," Shivara told them. "It will not be easy. It requires discipline, practice, and patience. But most importantly, it requires letting go of the fear that we are monsters. We are not monsters. We are people with a gift that requires understanding. And together, we will learn how to use that gift safely." She looked at Marcus, who smiled encouragingly. "We will learn how to connect," Shivara continued. "How to touch without harm. How to love without fear. How to belong in a galaxy that once seemed closed to us. It begins with one choice. The choice to believe that connection is worth the risk." One young Valkyrie, barely 20 years old, raised her hand tentatively. "Princess Shivara, were you afraid when you first tried?" "Terrified," Shivara admitted honestly. "But someone believed in me when I did not believe in myself. That made all the difference." She squeezed Marcus's hand. He squeezed back. "So we begin today," Shivara said. "Together. Step by step. Touch by touch. We will build a new future for our people. A future where isolation is a choice, not a requirement. Where connection is possible for those who want it. The young Valkyrie nodded. Some looked hopeful. Others looked scared. But they had all chosen to come. They had all chosen to try. And that, Marcus knew, was how every revolution began. Not with grand declarations or sudden transformations, but with one person deciding to reach out and another person deciding to reach back. In the weeks and months that followed, the program grew. Some Valkyrie mastered control quickly. Others struggled, but persisted. There were setbacks and accidents, but there were also successes. Friendships formed between humans and Valkyrie. Understanding deepened. Barriers fell. And through it all, Marcus and Shivara stood together. Teacher and student. Friends and partners. Two beings who had dared to reach across the divide and found something beautiful on the other side. One evening, they stood again at the viewing window where Marcus had first arrived months ago. Valkyra glowed purple below them. But now, Shivara was not looking at her homeworld. She was looking at the human standing beside her. The human who had changed everything. "I warned you not to touch me again," she said softly, remembering their first meeting. Marcus smiled. "You did. You said you would drain me, and I did drain you. Multiple times." "Worth it," Marcus said simply. Shivara laughed and took his hand. No gloves, no barriers. Just skin against skin, warm and safe and controlled. Yes, she agreed. It was worth it. They stood together, watching the stars, knowing that they had helped create something that would echo through generations. They had proven that connection was stronger than isolation. That understanding was more powerful than fear. That even the most fundamental barriers could be crossed if someone was brave enough to take the first step. And sometimes, that first step was as simple as reaching out your hand and waiting for someone to reach back.